The way in which we execute the snatch or the clean and jerk should depend on a few personal factors. But what we tend to do, especially as beginners, is we tend to try to carbon copy lifters that we like and watch online. And the issue with this is, not only are we emulating the issues that these top lifters may have and maybe trying to work on themselves, but we may not be moving in the way that is optimal for ourselves personally. Now, through coaching hundreds of lifters across all walks of life, although the fundamentals are the same, the tweaks in which I apply to one certain lifter may be inappropriate for another. For one factor simply is due to the proportions of the lifter. Now, what I'm going to do today is bust out these stick figures here to explain in as simple terms as I can is where and how lifters can make the necessary adjustments to fit their own personal lifting style from the start position. This is to ensure that you're setting yourself up for an efficient pull to follow and not just blindly following a lifter online that is built nothing like you. So what I'm going to do to start is show an example of a lifter whose proportions are quite balanced. And you can see from the start position, the femurs are sitting horizontally, the shoulders are on top of the bar, and the weighting is through the midfoot, where ideally that is where we want our center of balance to be through. And in the first pull to follow, we can see the shoulders are staying on top of the bar, we're still maintaining balance, and the shins are roughly vertical just above the knee. Now, for our tall drinks of water out there, let's say you have long legs and you try to emulate exactly the previous example. We can see when we do that our center of mass actually shifts backwards somewhat. And if we pull from this position, that's when our positioning can be quite off at the knee. The shoulders can track backwards behind the bar early, and in some cases the barbell can even scrape the knees as we go past. Essentially, potentially finding ourselves in a situation where we can bump the bar away post contact. So, how do we stop this from happening? How can we maintain balance at the knee if you have long legs? One way to do that in the start position is slightly raising the hips. Now, this will mean that our shoulders are somewhat more over the bar as it were in the first example with the shorter levers, but it does mean that we're pulling from a position that is more mechanically advantageous for our lever lengths and can ensure balance, and we can maximize that vertical bar height as we head into extension. Now, don't think for a second that I've forgotten about all of you short kings out there. Now, if we go back to our first example, but alter the proportions to have the femurs be slightly shorter, again, we can see our center of balance begin to shift, but heading forwards this time, and which can actually cause the inverse of issues when compared to the longer levered lifter. If we proceed to pull from this position where our center of balance is slightly shifted forward, we can begin to feel as if we are being pulled forward in the first pull. Now, the solution to this, which is the opposite of the longer levered lifter, is to actually slightly lower the hips in the start position. Now, this will further engage the quads and cause us to be more upright with the shoulders in the start position, but then we can maintain balance and then proceed to hold this up until we reach the knee just before the second pull. Now, in order to strengthen this position as we head to above the knee, really maintaining that balance and staying on top of the bar with the shoulders, there's a few variations I like to use. The first one being 2 position pause pulls. The first one being below the knee, the second above the knee. Now, the transition from below to above the knee is pivotal when it comes to maintaining balance. This is where some issues begin to arise where lifters can't keep their shoulders on top of the bar as we approach above the knee. And this perfectly drills in and gives you the awareness of how you should feel as you approach above the knee, keeping the shoulders on top of the bar. A second variation I like to add in are flat-footed pulls. This can be confusing at first, but the main idea of this is keeping midfoot balance and the feet flat the entire time during the pull, even in extension. For those that move onto the toes early or perhaps into the heels as you approach the second pull, if we keep the feet flat the entire time, we can simply focus on leg drive and shrugging at the top of extension, trying to maintain balance through the pull. Now, if you can execute these two, a third challenge you can add in is a pull with a momentary hold at the top of extension. Extension being on the toes and shrugging at the top of the pull. If you feel the need to fall forward or backwards, it means you're not driving vertically with the legs enough and you're perhaps bringing the hips through or the shoulders back a little early. Now, if you can nail all these 3 variations and want to start incorporating it into your lifts, you can begin by adding some pauses into your classical lifts, but also adding in some tempo work. Tempo work being your first and partial second pull to roughly mid-thigh, being 2 to 3 times slower than you usually would. It only needs to be light, but it's perfect for feeling through the lift, not rushing, and really maintaining that balance in order to then extend powerfully once we reach triple extension. Now, to summarize, the idea when it comes to progression in weightlifting in a technical sense isn't found by the means of a magic bullet through your favorite weightlifters and how they move. The key here is learning the fundamentals of the movement so you know exactly how the movement should be executed regardless of where your personal variables lie. If you need help with any of this, I have several resources below to help you on your weightlifting journey, including a free technical intensive program and an efficiency calculator. And if you need further help with your lifting and accountability to match, you can apply to work with me one-on-one or work with me through the means of my team program and join a team of like-minded lifters of all skill levels.